The following transmission is a conversation with Kort, Bethesda-centric YouTuber and creator of the Rebuilding the Commonwealth series, an ongoing settlement building story with a combined total of over 10 million views. Having been doing YouTube for most of his life, Kort, over the last few years, have found great success in the creativity of settlement building in Fallout 4. Settlement building videos themselves being an incredibly popular subgenre of the Fallout community. Over the past year, however, his audience has become deeply attached to the story of Bob, the new general of the Minutemen, and his ongoing mission to repair and defend the Commonwealth. Over the course of our conversation, we'll talk about storytelling, game design, and scope as it relates to Bethesda's titles, and how, at their very core, is an innately human concept: music. I am follower Toshi, and this is the Atomcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow for future episodes and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. As always, links to our Patreon, as well as guest socials, can be found in the description. And be sure to leave a comment recommending creators that you'd like to see as future guests. Without further ado, Kort.
So I try not to ask like leading questions or anything, and I'm going to kind of preface this just so it doesn't seem like completely random and out there. This is sort of like a leading question leading into something bigger. What is your favorite Bluey character?
Is that the show? Are you talking about that? Wait, Bluey. Are you talking about that cartoon?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know any of the characters on that at all.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've never watched it. I know it's Australian, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what you're asking.
And that's sort of like the question that I was going to be leading into, because funnily enough, I like the day that we're recording this was also one of my streaming days. And, during that recording, one of the games that we played was Cult of the Lamb, which is another Australian production, game specifically. Right. And I was thinking and like talking to chat during that game, like in recent years, there has been like such a, I mean, this just be like me, naive American man over here, but when it comes to gaming specifically, a lot of the like big like genre defining games have always come out of America, you know, unless you're going back to like, you know, like Tetris, which was like the most like influential game like in human history, which was Russian. And again, for the most part, like all of the like big games come out of America. But in recent years, with games like, you know, Hollow Knight, very recently Hollow Knight Silksong, Cult of the Lamb, and Schedule 1, and then there's probably like one or two other ones.
One with Australian? I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of hilarious, actually. I didn't know
I know, right? But like it's really interesting because, like, you know, you got all these like really good games coming out of Australia specifically, but more so specifically, all of them are like indie developed games. So they're, I mean, as far as I've seen anyway, they're not games that have like a lot of like, you know, big like corporate backing and stuff like that. I
don't think we have many big like what would you call it, game development teams in Australia. Not that I know about. Like, you know, you guys have Ubisoft, you've got Bethesda, and there's, you know, so many others. I can't think of many big teams in Australia. Off the top of my head anyway.
And like that's the interesting thing too, because like you said, there's like a lot of big name like developers and big name publishers in like America and Europe. You know, you got like you said, Bethesda, Rockstar, EA, Ubisoft, like all these. I think Ubisoft is technically French, but
right,
you know, that's giving the French a platform.
Well, it's not Australian, we'll just say that.
No, yeah, and like that's what's so interesting. Like, you know, like because there's like specific parts of the world that aren't known for like this bit of industry or that bit of industry, and that kind of seems to have been maybe not intentionally, but like part of the Like that seems to have been the situation with Australia. But recently it's becoming like a bigger place for developers, but specifically in the indie scene. And I think that's so cool as like, because it's not just like games, it's also like more media things. Like, you know, Bluey has gotten like a massive like worldwide following and stuff. And then like in the games industry specifically, those other titles have gotten so much bigger and they've been independently developed games. And I think that's such a cool way to sort of like,
I have a theory on why we don't have any big teams in Australia working on video games.
What do you got as a man on the inside, so to say?
So if you think about living in America and Europe, you guys have a far, wider population to reach from for talent, right? And America and Europe, they can fly people over from Europe to America to work there. Whereas when you're in Australia, we've got 27 million, which is like one of your states,
Mm-hmm.
So we're basically an American state on the other side of the world, isolated. We don't have I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not like an opportunity to build a real talented team. There would be enough talented people in Australia to form a team, but there's not that opportunity to bring them together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pure numbers game. You got the numbers, exactly. but the drive isn't there.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, it's more of a middle ground thing. Like we do have the talent, but I guess the industry hasn't been built here, and because we're so isolated, the people with the startup money, it would be smarter for them to build it in America or Europe, because it's a lot easier to find talent and move people from like Germany to England if they're building it, you know what I mean? Whereas in Australia, I mean, we could get people from Asia, but then, they might not speak English.
Yeah. It's the infrastructure isn't there for it.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but if I remember correctly, there was some Australian politician, like a member of your parliament, I think, who actually like, I don't think he was trying to like push forward a bill, but he said like something specifically about like how great it is to have like more games made in Australia that are finding like such big success. And I think like Silksong and Cult of the Lamb were games that he like name dropped specifically, which I think is really interesting because, like we previously talked about, the games industry isn't that big there, but the games that have been made out of Australia have been like really, really successful. And where there's success, people are going to see money and an opportunity to like build industry.
Well, I'm sure
there's
ones that aren't very successful, right? But you just don't hear about them. Like, I'm sure there's lots of games that are being made from Australia, like indie, but yeah, you just don't hear about them. I think.
Yeah. But then like when you have those games that do reach that like almost like global audience, and you all of a sudden have such like an influx of money. Like, I mean, it's still like a smaller scale, but Tyler, the guy who made Schedule One, who just like started it in his dorm room as just like, oh, this is probably I could, something
just
I could
side projects,
it's just something I could make to like help pay for university and stuff. And now he's sold like thousands.
Now he's set.
Thousands of copies. He's got a studio now. They recently expanded a little bit to where they got like an actual office space and like 4 employees.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And like dude's in like university too. Like he's just getting started.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
everything.
the thing, right? With game development, anything that's on your computer, you can really just start it on your own. It's like YouTube, right? Some people, everyone starts out on their own, and then some people hire, and have teams at some point. It's very similar, right? You can start anything if you truly want to do it. It really is just up to you learning what you need to learn and just going out and doing it.
And I think that when it comes back to like game development in the country, I think it's so cool that we're seeing it from sort of like the inverse, where we're not seeing like big like big companies, big like stuff like that being like built up in the country to then like make games that is like, they're hoping that like, just put stuff out and then like it catches on and it brings in money and then they're able to like continue to build up from that. No, it's specifically
passion projects.
Yeah, passion projects, individual projects that are then.
Well, that's kind of been the gaming industry as a whole recently. The past, what would you say, like half a decade, maybe a bit longer. Like, I mean, there are good AAA games, but to be honest, I feel like AAA games aren't keeping up with the wants for gamers, what gamers want, and that's why we see so many indie games, because indie games are made by gamers. I'm not saying AAA aren't, but when you have such a big team, there's going to be people in there that, you know, aren't avid gamers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you have like
Maybe they play
shareholders
games.
and like
Yeah,
creative
exactly.
directors who are like beholden to specific
Yeah.
special interests and stuff.
And then, you know, someone might have a great idea, but getting that down the pipeline and into the game is a whole process. And, you know, they are at their job. They just want to do their job and go home. And going through that whole process, I'm sure, can be a nightmare. So it's not the best place for creativity, you know. I feel like the smaller the team, the more creative you can be. The bigger the team, depending, this isn't like an end-all be-all statement, but I feel like the bigger the team, the harder it is to be creative and have that creative freedom to do it, you know.
And I think that's also just kind of like indicative of just like the creative space in general, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, especially nowadays, you see, I mean, I don't want to be out here saying like, oh, there's corporate backed, like influencers and stuff. Like they're very obviously.
Oh, that definitely is.
Yeah.
100%.
But like a lot of the stuff that's more like it's coming from that, like you said, like that passion project level where, you know, you're doing it you're just doing it for the love of the game. And then it catches on. Yeah. And
well, people can tell the difference between something that's made for the sake of getting to a certain standard to then earn money to the, you know, compared to someone who has an idea and builds on that idea and just puts everything they have into it. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between that kind of creative process.
I also just looked it up, and ironically enough, I actually played this game like back in the day. Another Australian-made game. One of the ones that I'm actually just now remembering that politician that I mentioned name dropped was Untitled Goose Game.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was from Australia either. See, I don't even know Australian games.
Right. I mean, this one that I just pulled up here also like. One, didn't notice it, but it's very apropos that this would actually be an Australian-made game from 2012, Game Dev Tycoon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's games I've played that are made in Australia that I had no idea.
Oh no, yeah, same. And it's just crazy how like you look back at some of these things and be like, oh my gosh, wow, that's so crazy. Especially for, again, Australia, when like it like recently it's getting just like so much attention because it's finding like so much success just right off rip.
So for the audience, if you haven't caught on by the conversation, I am Australian. That's why we're talking about this.
Yeah.
We're not just randomly talking about Australia.
It's topical. I know that many people in my audience are accent deaf, but no, you know.
Well, I've been told I sound British, and it's because, okay, this is a bit of a tangent.
You go for it.
So each state have different accents. Growing up, you know, I didn't really know this because it's not like they're not really different. Like in America, you have Texas and New York, completely different, right? And Boston, like really different accents. In Australia, we do have different accents actually. Like, so I'm from South Australia, and we speak more like the British, where, you know, in Queensland they have more of a, I guess, deeper Australian accent. So like I'll say, I got to remember the word. Like, I'll say dance, right? The word dance. And they'll say dance. And when I say dance, it doesn't feel right. So I'm like, oh yeah, we actually do say things differently. So what I'm getting at is when I'm, you know, uploading a YouTube video and then somebody watches it and they'll say like, oh, like they'll just assume I'm British, a lot of people. So I think a lot of people don't actually know I'm Australian.
It doesn't really help that you got the the little bowler hat and the cup of tea.
Yeah, that's true.
Which
yeah.
I think a lot of people like. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people like will like they see that, and maybe not like a large percentage, but some people are definitely gonna like immediately go to like content creators like the Spiffing Brit, for example.
So do you want to know the story behind my profile picture? Because this is an interesting one, I think.
Absolutely, especially if it's interesting.
So a long time ago in a land far, far away, I was sitting in my bedroom playing Fallout 76. Believe it or not. I'm not a big fan of this game, but there was a period I was enjoying it for a bit there, okay? This was before I was making videos on this channel. So I was live streaming on Twitch, and I had this kind of persona. So I had a settlement where I would sell scrap. I'd just farm a bunch of scrap and I'd sell it. And then I'd get people on the stream and say, what scrap do you need? They'd come and buy it. I didn't do this for too long, but this was like, I'd get home from work and this was kind of, I enjoyed playing the game at the time.
Yeah,
anyway,
a little light role.
I shamed Fallout 76 enjoyment aside. So my guy wore the suspender slacks and a bowler hat because I was going for like this, like the salesman. I'm selling my scrap in my settlement,
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I need to get some emotes for my stream, and I was like, oh, I'll get my character from Fallout 76. So this image was one of my emotes, and on his shoulder is a bag of caps because it's like, oh, he's selling all his junk and he's rich, he's showing off his wealth. Yeah, so that's where it's interesting, isn't it? Like, and it has nothing to do with what I guess it's still Fallout-y, but there's a whole story behind it.
And like, that's one of the things I wanted to like going into like actually like, not just talking about the place where you so happen to have, spawned, but like the actual content.
I like that.
Video game, your spawn point. But like the actual, like meat and potatoes of your content. Cause I can't remember when I think the first thing that I saw from your content was the Fallout 4 Rebuilding the Commonwealth Season 2 trailer.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I saw that.
So recently, so you only found my channel recently. Okay.
No, yeah, and like that's the crazy thing, because then I went and I actually like looked at your stuff, and I saw like how much like popularity you're getting on YouTube, and like how for like how very recently you've been starting to make content for YouTube, and I'm all like, whoa, that's crazy. Because I mean, like, as somebody who's been doing this for like 5 years at this point, seeing somebody with so few of her videos like so much earlier.
I've had other channels. I've been doing this since in high school. I've been making videos for a long time. But this channel has been, I think, about 3 years I've been putting videos on this channel.
Yeah, and that's what's specifically about the content you've like recently started making, because like you've specifically like your main channel, Kort, has been like mostly like building focused, but then your more recent stuff, you're rebuilding the Commonwealth, your kind of like survival stuff. I think that stuff specifically is so interesting because one, the actual like base building stuff in like Fallout 4 and to a larger extent Fallout 76, usually always gets like a good amount of traction because people just like seeing, how other people can be creative. When you attach the survival aspect to it with, games like Bethesda games in general, people also really like the survival aspect. You specifically with the rebuilding, the Wasteland series. Yeah. It's interesting because it's three intersectionalities of three very specific, very key elements of like content. Video. Yeah. Like video creation. One, it's storytelling because you have an actual like ongoing story that you're telling. It's very tight editing. And then it's also this base building element. So like it's three
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
exactly right.
three
Yeah.
seemingly random, quote unquote random.
Well, do you want me to tell you how I got to this point?
Exactly. That's actually what I was kind of leading into.
Okay.
So like,
So I'll start from before this channel, just briefly. Before this, so in high school, I played Fortnite, just like everyone in high school. I'm not proud of it. No, I'm kidding. Fortnite was fun back in the day before it went all multiverse. Anyway, so I was playing Fortnite and I'd upload some like montages. Even before this, I'd upload Minecraft videos. So I always had I guess you call it a desire, a passion for YouTube. I didn't, a lot of kids have a passion for it. But then when it comes to the process of it, that's where they fall off and they realize, I don't actually enjoy the editing and the planning and the scripting. There's a lot more that goes into it than when you're a kid than you realize, right? But I actually enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the editing. I really fell in love with editing and just the whole process of it intrigued me. So then fast forward, I'm an adult and I was playing Fallout 4 and I was watching a Twitch streamer. I won't say who it is, but just in case they don't want to be called out. But I was watching them play Fallout 4 building settlements. And I was like, I've always been into settlement building. As soon as the game came out, the first session of the game, I just settlement building in Sanctuary the whole time. So I've always enjoyed settlement building. Anyway, so I was watching him. He was uploading tours to YouTube. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was building as well. And I was like, oh, I can just upload to show, the kind of community in that stream what I'd built. So I did that. It was just, I didn't record me building, but when it was done, I'd load up OBS. You can see in the video, I just alt-tab back into the screen and it's like I'm paused and I have to unpause because I had to alt-tab out to record, So I'm just doing like a live commentary, going through the settlement, showing what I built. And then at the end, I'd click stop recording and then just upload that raw footage. Wouldn't even edit it, just bang, straight onto YouTube.
Yep.
So that's how I started out on this channel.
That's how a lot of my early stuff started too. I look back on some of it and I'm like, oh my God, what are you fucking doing? It sucks.
Well, it's kind of like a podcast in a way. People would probably put it on in the background and then do it while they're building. But, anyway, so then I did that for a while, like a year maybe, just building settlements and doing that. And it was kind of just like, and then some videos started getting traction. Like I remember when the Sanctuary Hills video I did back then, it got to like 20,000 views. And I was like, wow, people are watching this. I originally uploaded it just for the few people to watch. And I was like, okay, people are actually watching this. I enjoy this. I'm going to keep going. And I stuck with the style because there's a big thing. I think it boils down to when you find something successful that you're doing, it's hard to stray away from that. And to me, getting that 20,000 views on the Sanctuary video, that was like, whoa, that's really good. I'm going to keep doing it like this because this seems to be working. I did that for a while. And then I realized there's a limit to that. There's only a certain audience you can reach with that type of content. And it's the real hardcore people that are willing to sit down for half an hour and watch an uncut video, right? So then I was like, okay, I got to learn video editing and how to actually pace my videos. So I started watching Mitten Squad's videos, Can You Beat, where he'd cut and talk about what he's doing and then cut to the new scene. And that was like the basics of like, okay, I need to be talking about what I'm putting on screen and then cutting to the next thing to basically the pacing of it, right? And then I was like, okay, but then you get to Juve and Jabbo, for example, they do like more creative editing and they have the pacing, but then with more creative elements mixed in. So then I tried some of that. And you can kind of see it as you go through my older videos. You can see it, all the things I'm learning kind of come into the videos. So then it come back around. I'd done a few videos on like Skyrim where it's all edited, Fallout 4 even. So then I changed to that style. And then I was like, okay, what if I took what I've learned from editing and brought back the settlements? And that was the two things I'd learned. And then I was like, okay, but I also want to have a story. So that was kind of the next thing I added into this series that's new. This is like the part I'm on now is the storytelling kind of learning, if that makes sense. So I basically just connected all of those three together and then created this series.
Yeah, the big elements that really like define like this series specifically.
But no, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't luck that happened. I see a lot of people say YouTube is luck, which there definitely is luck. But I do think there is a path, as long as you enjoy it and you have that strive and that you always get better and never. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of they upload a video and it might do well, like I did at the start, and it does well, and then you keep doing that. You always got to be adapting and trying new things and improving. And especially nowadays on YouTube, it's so competitive, and there's so many well-made, engaging videos that the way I was doing it back then, like I said, there was a ceiling. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to make YouTube videos, I guess I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, just try to always improve. And if you don't have an interest in the process, then you probably, if you're just doing it just to be a YouTuber, but the process, you don't enjoy the process, you can always get an editor and things, but at the end of the day, I do think you need to be involved in that process. And if you don't enjoy it, it's probably not for you.
I've had like a couple, because like, I mean, the whole point of it is just like the process of being creative. I've had a couple people in like when I'm doing like live streams and stuff, either like ask me, I can't remember specifically when this happened, but I remember at one point somebody came into my stream and was actually asking me in reference to like a TikTok short I updated, like, why do you think, oh yeah, it was like I had said something along the lines of like, I don't think Bethesda should use AI to help like, speed stuff along to get to like, the next project or like this, that, or the other thing. Or something akin to that, something in that same vein. And they basically came in and were like, well, why do you think that's like a bad idea? Why do you think Bethesda using like generative AI is a bad idea? And it was like, long story short, generative AI, it's not good. It's replacing human creativity. The long story is, to more so your point, like I've always seen like the process of creation as two parts. One, being creative, making something, and two, learning along the way in the process of being creative. Because it's like, for like me personally, with like AI specifically, I see AI as the means to the end. Most people are trying to like skip that middle ground between starting a project and having a finished product. They're trying to expedite the creative process, be that in the form of like, like maybe they have like a loose idea for something and then they like type it into like, an art program or a video program and it spits something out. And then like, boom, we got that fills this section of what needs to be done here. And then it just gets to the end goal faster. Yeah. And for me, that's always seemed more like you're not really trying to create something creative. You're trying to create something that you can then like either market or sell. You're creating a product as opposed to creating art or creating something that has like any sort of like entertainment, quote unquote, or creative value. Because like
I think the problem with AI used in a creative way is, like you kind of said, it gets to the end and it's a very straightforward. There's a word, but I don't know exactly what it is, but it's very orderly. That's the word. Like it'll do things the right way, right? It won't want to make mistakes, but sometimes mistakes are what makes it, really feel and like if I screw up in my script and you leave that in, that's like the human element. It removes the human element. It becomes robotic. It loses interest. It loses the connection with the audience because it's very orderly, and so sure, AI. Like let's say you could use AI in some things. I think it's fine. Like if I was like, I have an idea for this and maybe use it as a brainstorming thing. I've done that a couple of times. I'll put in an idea I have and it'll brainstorm a couple of things. I never usually use what it comes up with, but it'll get me thinking in a different way. It's like talking to a friend. You'll bring up an idea and then they'll give you another idea, but then that will give you another idea, you know what I mean? So it's like a good brainstorming thing, but using it to create, I mean, hey, to each their own, but for me personally, I don't think it doesn't create a product that I'm willing to watch. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's well, this is for video creation. I don't think I mean, any AI video, if it's AI generated images, I'll watch it. I'll be like, okay, I'll try and watch it. I'll see if I find a YouTube video and then it's AI generated, I'll go, okay, I'll try and watch it. Just give it a chance, right? You can tell straight away when it's AI generated. Anyway, I'll get like 10 seconds in. There was a video the other day, and there was like this stream. It was like this kind of wide shot of a Roman city or something, or like some ancient city. And there was a stream running through it with a bridge, and there was a sailboat going down it. And the sail was about to hit the bridge, and then it just phased out of existence. And it just took me out of the video completely, and I clicked off. I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? It loses it's just complete. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, AI is not there to do, complete productions. Nowhere near it yet. And even when it is, like I said, it won't have that human element unless it's programmed to. But then even then, it'll be robotic about it, and it'll be in a pattern. You know what I mean? Everything will be in a robotic pattern, and it just, I don't think AI is the future for content creation. I'm sure some people will find success with just AI videos, but there will always be a market for human created content, for that human connection part of it.
And then there's like the sort of like the inverse on that coin, because like there's the creative element and then there's like the productive element. I don't know if you've been keeping up with some of the news revolving around like Claire Obscura, Expedition 33 specifically. But one of the, like, long story short with that game, French independent game, ex Ubisoft developers. The story itself is crazy, so I won't go into it too much. Got hugely popular, came out early in the year, won like Game Award and like a whole bunch of other awards and stuff. Fell into a bit of controversy shortly after the Game Awards, because it was discovered on like somebody discovered like on one like lamppost in the game. There's like all these like posters of like newspapers or something like that. And somebody actually discovered that those specific like a couple of pages appeared to actually be AI generated newspapers. And so like
I don't think that's a bad thing personally.
Yeah. And like that's, so
I think it's a tool, right? And it's like, it's a background thing, I do think it's a choice that the developer has to make, because you're going to degrade your product if you use AI. But if it's such a small thing, the average gamer is not going to notice that and it wouldn't bother them. But if you want to have a deep fan base, the more you use AI, the more they're going to disregard following your fandom, your whatever it is. You can use AI sparingly. I think it's okay. But as soon as you rely on it is when it's the problem.
And like, that's the thing too, because there's like, I mean, there's like extremes in any regard, but a bigger part of the conversation is, because I think almost everybody can agree that like stuff that's purely made or like majority made with like AI in some form or fashion is bad.
Well, it puts it in a box in your mind, because you can tell when something's AI generated. They have a certain look. Well, there's different types of AI generated images, but you can 99% of the time you can tell, and then it goes into your brain and it puts it in that category if that's AI generated. And whether you have a preconceived idea of that's good or bad, whatever, most people lean toward it's bad. So then that instantly, no matter how good of an image it created, if you can tell it's AI generated, it puts it in that bad box, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's risky using
off.
AI stuff. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then when it comes to like the actual production, I think that's where like a lot more of the nuanced conversation comes into play, because then it's like, it's that same sort of conversation around like creativity and stuff, but now it's like creativity tied to productivity, because it's like, is it ethical to use AI to, like help generate concept stuff for like, like you said, like you'll generate something to get ideas, and then like it'll get your brain going in like a specific direction, or
brainstorm,
like brainstorm, grease the gears and stuff. And then it's like to how much in like the pre-production of games, how much is it like acceptable to use AI in that regards? Because like if it's not going to be something that's used in like the final product, what's the harm there? But then it's like, how much is that going to affect the actual like creatives, the people who I make think those things?
If you're using AI for world building, like you said, a pre-production world building, that's probably going to harm the product, because a lot of world building comes from feeling, right? Like think about a Bethesda game. They always start, this is coming from Todd Howard or someone in the team, they always start with the music. That they'll get the main theme nailed, and then they'll use that throughout the entire project to tie it all together. They'll use that feeling. That's the tone of the game. And AI can't feel. It doesn't understand a feeling. It can explain a feeling, and it can try its best to generate a certain thing, and it might do a good job. But over a longer period of a project, and also if it's creating lots of concept arts, it's gonna use data from everywhere and all of its database. Instead of, when you have a feeling, you're focused on that feeling, right? And that's where it flows from. And an AI can't do that. So I guess my point is, robots suck. No. I don't think pre-production, using AI in pre-production, if you want to connect to your audience on an emotional level, which we can all agree Bethesda games with their music, that's what the music is there for. And I'm not saying AI can create music really well. I'm sure it can. But the music is what ties the whole project together. You hear that music and you look over the landscape and you see that dragon. When they were creating these things, that music was there. They had that music there. So that came from that tone, right? They were in that tone when they were creating those things. And AI, I don't think, can do that. It might be able to be programmed to, but it's not going to have that same human emotional feeling. You know what I mean? It might be able to. I'm not sure. This is just my opinion. At least where AI is now, it's very risky using it in pre-production, unless you want your product to not be as good as it can be. Let's just say that.
I always forget that that's like where Bethesda starts with their
yeah, it's interesting. I think it's smart. I think it's really smart.
It like
because
doubly
music
so,
inspires. Music inspires.
Yeah,
right.
And like it, because like
if everyone's on the same, listening to the same music, it's all coming. The inspiration is all coming from the same source, and I think that's where the magic of Bethesda games come from, and why they have such a defined tone is because the team is all listening to the same inspiration. That's what's guiding their process.
Because it starts from just like
really
a universally human place. Because like what, like, stories.
How does this make me feel? That's something you can't ask an AI. It'll tell you, oh, this will make you feel happy, blah, blah, blah. But you can't truly explain an emotion. Emotions are very deep, and everyone might experience it differently, right? So you're asking AI, what emotions does this music piece give me? Everyone that listens to it is going to feel differently. Like you can't generate a feeling.
Because like you're saying, like the music specifically, like it's so iconic. Like Skyrim is like, because I mean they like Skyrim at the very least, as far as I can remember, was one of those like songs that was in like symphonic orchestras and stuff like that. There was like some event they did like a while ago where they were playing like different video game musics and stuff like that, and like obviously Skyrim is one of those. Obviously, and like it like you said, it does create such like powerful like presence and
it brings
tone.
you back. It brings you back. As soon as you hear Secunda, for example, the kind of night theme in Skyrim, or any of the songs, it brings you back to that feeling. It evokes memories. It brings you back to playing Skyrim. The music is really what ties Bethesda. Without the music, they're pretty bland video games. The music is what ties them together. For sure. That's like the most important part of a Bethesda game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it just goes as far back as possible. You know, like even some of their older games like Morrowind and Oblivion, which Oblivion we got a remaster of later, and it like I'd never played the original Oblivion, but like just because the like I can't remember the name of the song, but like the standard theme song is just like so ubiquitous in like memes and like videos making fun of Bethesda jank.
What's it called? Something Harvest or something?
Yeah, something like that. But
I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
You just instantly recognize it.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you've played the game.
It does create a charming feeling to the game. And I often, when I'm playing Oblivion and then that soundtrack comes up, it just makes everything that happens really goofy. And it's just like, it because of all the memes and that's where my brain goes. And then things just seem to go goofy when things seem to go wrong when that song comes on. I don't know. I swear they've coded it to do that.
It's an audio code. It's psychic warfare.
It's like as soon as this song comes on, then this character's gonna just fall through the ground and
because like especially with like music, it's like you said, it's so much easier in like grounding a person in feeling compared to story. Because like people will feel differently about like story, but almost universally we feel the exact same way about song or music.
Well, I disagree. I think everyone, I think on a human level, the feeling we feel inside, you can call it your soul, whatever, is unique. Even though it might evoke the same emotion, let's say I feel something that makes me feel love. I feel like everyone's feeling is different, right? Or it might be similar, but they will be different on a certain level because we're all different. We're not all built the exact same. People look different, blah, blah, blah. So I do think the feeling, although might be similar, is different. If that makes sense. Like I can't say if you really focus on a feeling, it's hard to say is this person next to me listening to this feeling the exact same way, or are they feeling it in their own way, but it's still leading to the same emotion? Do you know what I mean? Like we it's hard to express a feeling. Like we use words. We'll say, "Oh, this makes me feel happy." But if you really just focus on the feeling itself, you can't really put it to words on how it. You know what I mean? It's a feeling. It's hard to bring a feeling into words, even though we do. But it ends up broadening the feeling, if that makes sense.
Compared to like story specifically, I think it's more so the fact that it makes it's a lot easier to get to like maybe like feeling adjacent. But if nothing else, it helps to create like a bigger feeling.
A tone, a tone.
Yeah.
A tone is a good way to put it because then it's like a tone is the perfect word actually because then it's not like, oh, this game makes you happy. It's like there's a tone, like with the Bethesda game, all the different songs in Skyrim, like, okay, for example, you could say, oh, Skyrim is Nordic and all the music is Nordic, but that's not what I feel when I play the game. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm in a Nordic place. It's feelings of home. It's feelings of adventure, but then they all tie together and then the music and it's its own unique, everything ties together into its own unique feeling. When I play Skyrim, there's no other game that gives that feeling of Skyrim. I play Elden Ring, I might have feelings of adventure as well, but it's a different feeling within because of all that music, the atmosphere, the art, it all ties into its own unique feeling. That's why I said earlier as well was I feel like we all feel things differently because it's a complex thing what creates a feeling. Everything tied together and we experience things differently as well from our past experiences. Like I said, we're getting deep now.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope the viewers are able to follow this conversation. I don't know, maybe it's not that deep. But.
Any like long-term, any like long-form watchers of the podcast will know that like there's a lot of times where like we can get like a lot deeper into like the I need to like come up with an actual like tagline for the podcast like it is that deep or something like that because like one of the to get back onto like story specifically and try to lead back into your story that you're building with like your little Minutemen rebuilding the Commonwealth stuff. One of our previous guests, I don't know, being a Fallout creator is just weird because it's like you kind of know other creators, but there's also like so many other creators that you just have.
Oh, it's massive. The community is massive. I don't know it. There's no way I know everyone.
No,
There's no way.
And it's like we talked about this before we even started recording. Like I only found out about you through, or maybe we talked about it when we were recording.
The trailer.
Now I'm forgetting. But like,
no, that was recording. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
The trailer.
where I only found out about you like very, very recently, and yet you've been doing this for so long. There's a.
Well, I think the current series is like over a year. It's been going on for.
No, yeah, it's still very recent. But there's a creator on TikTok, YouTube, and like Instagram. The basic short form platforms. Called Nywall.
Right. Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah,
he makes a skit, right?
Yeah, he does Fallout themed skits and stuff. He was a previous guest. You probably saw that when I pointed you towards like some of our older videos.
Pop up. Yeah.
He was a former one, and like he's a dad and stuff. So like his like reading and like dissection of the story of like Fallout 4 is coming from such like a unique place, specifically as a father. So he has a much deeper and a much more like personal lived experience understanding of the story as somebody who is not only a father himself, but also had a strained relationship with his own father, a separated relationship for lack of a deeper term. This is for anybody watching. This is stuff that we talked about in the podcast. You can go watch that for more stuff. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it is that like perspective thing, and like
Well,
to draw back
thought
to
about
it.
this the other day, which is interesting that you bring this up. I was thinking the other day, like Bethesda games do focus on family, and I'm not a father myself, but I can see that if I was a father, I would be. And you got to think the people that make Bethesda games. I'd say most of the people that work there are men. I'm not sure nowadays, but from the older videos watching like the Skyrim documentaries, most of the people working there were men. They were, probably in their 30s. Most of them had children. So they were drawing the story from their own experience. They were like, okay, if I was in this world and I had my kid, they were drawing that from their own experience. So it makes sense why Bethesda games do focus on family, because a lot of them are dads,
Yeah. A lot of family members. Drawing that back to your story, that's actually a really good story, or a really good segue to get back into the story that you're crafting. What are like with one, what is the basic story that you're telling with you're rebuilding the Commonwealth series here, and like what sort of like the story itself, and then like what sort of like inspirations are you drawing from real world or otherwise?
Yeah. Okay. So it started out like in episode 1. It started out as an introduction, just basically to the character that I'm playing, which is called Bob, and he's the general of the Minutemen. And I'm focusing more on the wider. It's not an interpersonal story where it's about Bob himself. It's more of a story, a wider view of what's happening in the Commonwealth. It's like how the factions are interacting, the outcome of those interactions, the conflicts, and then how the Minutemen are evolving around the conflicts and progressing. That's kind of the focus of the story. It's not like he needs to go find his son, for example. It's not focusing on his inner feelings. It's focusing on like a wider, because that then helps me go, okay, this is happening in the Commonwealth now. Now they need to build here, and that ties back into the building part, right? Whereas if it was like Bob's feeling sad today, well then how am I gonna tie that into a building? It wouldn't. It's not like the type of, I guess, storytelling that I'm going for in the series.
Bob drank 40 whiskeys and then picked up a hammer.
Yeah. So I guess inspirations. That's a good question.
Because one of the things I also noticed in your videos that is not, maybe it's not specifically like unique, But because we talked about like music, I noticed that music plays a much bigger part in this series specifically. And since we talked about music, like creating space and tone and stuff.
I guess music is the inspiration. This is a good point, actually. I was thinking more of other things I've watched and stuff, but no. So when I'm making a video, I usually know what I'm going to do in the one after the one I'm working on, right? So like that's kind of how far I'm thinking forward. And so anyway, that's not the point I'm making, but yeah, that's where my brain went. Anyway,
Yeah.
So when I'm starting a video, and let's say I'm making the intro, so I always start out. I introduce the past events that recently happened, the events that are happening now, and then what we need to do. So then it kind of flows like that. Anyway, so then I'll go to the intro. I'll write out a script or something, but it always comes from a music piece. So I'll spend dozen or more hours, 12 hours or more, just finding the song for the intro and listening to the song over and over and seeing where that takes me, and then thinking about the current story, and it needs to hit the right beats. One thing that I focus on big time, especially for the intro and the cinematics, is the beats need to happen at certain moments. So it's very hard to write a script and then find a song where it beats with it. It's much easier to find a song with the right tone you want and then write the script for that, so that at certain moments, the beat is hitting with what you're saying, right? So if it gets dramatic, the music gets dramatic. If it's more, suspenseful, you know what I mean? So that's a big part of what I think ties my videos together, similar to, like we said about Bethesda games, is the music. It gets you immersed, right? That's what ties the story together. It might be a little detail when in the big picture of things, but I think that's truly what makes it immersive and ties it together, because there's that tone there bringing it all together. So yeah, I guess my point is I do spend a lot of time, because you mentioned the music. I do spend a lot of time on the music. I'll have like a whole folder full of potentials that I'm going to use for, let's say, an intro or a cinematic. And then I'll narrow it down to the one I'm actually going to use. But I mean, that's a whole process. Some days I'll try and find the song, and maybe I'm not feeling it, or I'm not finding any, and I'll have to come back the next day, and try again. Like, it's not a thing that you can just be like, okay, I'll give myself 2 hours. You can't rush that thing, right? It needs to be, and the song I pick will be different. I mean, I could pick a song, and then the next week I listen to that song and it might not be the right one anymore. I might be like, nah, that's not working for me anymore. I need to find a different one, and then I'll find a different one and go, yeah, that's the tone I want to go for. It inspires me, right?
And I mean, because like that's also stuff that I've used in like my videos too, like because like you said, like it's such a small part of the video, but like
of the production,
not
necessarily the video, of the production, of the video, it's massive, but of the production, it's one segment of all these other things you have to do.
Yeah, but it adds
I
much.
didn't mean of the video, if that's what I said.
No,
it's a big part of the video.
Yeah, the entire breadth of the project itself,
of the production. Yeah.
But it adds so much to the to the end product to help create that sense of tone.
If I didn't have, let's say if I had a cinematic, I don't know if you watched my Spectacle Island video, but at the end of that, I had a cinematic, which was kind of the ending of season 1 of the series, the kind of that tied it all together. That song was perfect for that. And as soon as I heard that song, I knew that was the one. And then I was listening to it and I was like, okay, this is where it's going to change beats. This is where this is going to segue into this. And it's like planning. You have to like, if you want to do videos like this, I'm not saying everyone needs to make their videos. Everyone does things differently, right? But the way I do it is, well, I explained it already, but yeah, like that song had specific beats that changed at specific moments, and people were like, oh, this is awesome. Which I do agree. I am very proud of that cinematic. And I'll rewatch it sometimes and be like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to top this ever. This is like cinema.
No, yeah, exactly.
It's anyone can do it. I do truly believe, but it just takes time and patience, and you need to, and everyone will make things differently, but I truly think anyone can do it. It's not like I'm special and just, like I get a lot of comments where it's like, oh, praising my ability in the content I make, but I truly do think anyone can do it. But it's not, this is cliche, but it is not easy. And it doesn't just, I've been doing YouTube videos for a long time. So it might inspire someone to make a video and then they'll make it, but it won't be at the level of mine and it might discourage them. But they need to remember that, my videos weren't at this level when I started either, nowhere near it. And it took time and I had to learn things naturally and organically. It's very hard to learn something just by watching someone and then doing it yourself. It's you can do that, and I've done that for plenty of things, but the whole process, you got to just keep doing it and figure it out yourself.
I mean,
we've been on a tangent. Is this okay? Am I rambling?
This is exactly the kind of content that this stuff is supposed to be. Because again, it is that deep.
I feel like I'm rambling.
It's exact because especially for the creators that I bring on, because I've had so many big names on here. It's good to get
get in that process.
Yeah, get the thought process. The inner because I mean you pretty much
everyone's different with it. I'm not saying that this is the way to make YouTube videos and you have to do this. This is my way that works for me. Right? Yeah. Everyone's different.
And because like you said before, the act of repetition and just learning what works, what feels,
and failure. It's very cliche, but these things are true. And that failure will drive you. That feeling of, okay, I'd upload videos and be like, this is going to be the one. This one's going to do really well. I did this so much better than the last one. Didn't perform how I wanted to. And then you'd get a feeling of a not very nice feeling. It would be, but then you use that to drive you. You use that as fuel to get better. And if you don't use that, and if you just, say that you're sad or whatever, say that you're depressed, it might be depressing, but you have to use that energy. You have to be a Sith Lord and use the dark side. But use that as motivation to keep going and prove something that you can do it. You have to prove to yourself. I think that's a good way of going about it, is prove to yourself. I guess it all boils down to I wanted to prove to myself that I could make good YouTube videos, and just over time, I guess, I'm not saying mine are great and the best or whatever, but I think, definitely compared to where I started, they are good. But here's the thing, though. You can't get content too much with where you are. You always have to be moving the goalposts forward, moving forward. You can't get too content with where you are because, you can. This is just coming from me. This is my way of doing things. There's people that have been doing the same type of content for 10 years. Lots of Minecraft YouTubers, right? They're still fun to watch. They still have a big audience. But for the way I have done it and the way I enjoy doing it, and it keeps it fresh as well because I'm always trying new things. I'm always trying to improve. It can be stressful as well. So I guess just figure out what works for you. But my advice would be keep moving the goalpost forward and keep trying to try out new things. And also another big thing is watch what other people do. And people say, oh, well, then if you do what someone else is doing, you're copying them. Well, yeah, you shouldn't just completely copy how someone makes a video. But if they, let's say, in my videos, I edit the building to the music, someone could take that and put it in their video, right? But then if they did everything the exact same, they would connect the dots of that video back to mine if they'd seen mine before, and they'd just think, oh, they're copying him, and then they wouldn't see anything unique that you have to offer, and they probably wouldn't come back for another video, even though you might get heaps of views on it. Mm-hmm. You need to be offering something that no one else is. I think.
It also cliche, but Oscar Wilde put it best, experience is just the name we give to our mistakes.
Experience comes from success too, because then you figure out what works.
Yeah. But you only figure out what works after you figure out what doesn't work.
Well, that's the thing. Some people might upload a video and get really successful quickly, but then they might peter off because they didn't figure out what didn't work and what to stay away from. It's a double-edged, I don't want to say double-edged sword, that's not the right thing, but there's two sides to it. Yeah, you need to know what works, but you need to know what not to do as well.
There's the goods and the bads.
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked a lot about Fallout and and Skyrim, or well, Skyrim specifically, Elder Scrolls, like, you know, to an extent. It's interesting because you're not specifically like a Fallout YouTuber. You're specifically a Bethesda
Just
YouTuber.
Bethesda, yes. Most people know me for Fallout because of the current series got so popular. But I've done, like I said, I started out with Fallout building, then I did other Bethesda things, and that was mostly to try out editing. But yeah, I have made, I would say at the moment I'm a Fallout creator, you know, probably what I'll be for the foreseeable future. But one day, especially when this series is over, I will definitely go back and create more on those games.
And that's one thing that is going to be interesting because, I mean, you know, the most current thing that Bethesda put out was Starfield, and you've dabbled in Starfield a little bit, but ever since it released, because like going into it, I think Starfield was like a big thing, like everybody was like super excited, and then it came out.
It's not every day Bethesda releases a video game.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's the thing they have on their side, is that they have the no matter if the last game was good or bad, they have that, because they've made good games and they have a place in people's heart. That time of waiting builds up a deep, like, there's a lot of words you can use, but I guess a deep suspense and desire for a new one. And then when they release it, it's like it's like a cultural. Well, I mean, you think about Fallout and Elder Scrolls, they're like pop culture. You know, they're very, very popular things. So again, and then they go so long without releasing one, and then they announce a new thing. It's like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. That's what everyone thought Starfield was going to be, the next big thing. Anyway, back to what you were saying, because I can't
like
took me off track there.
Well, because like we were leading into Starfield anyway. So like Starfield, what you have thoughts and opinions on Bethesda's
I have lots
newest
of thoughts
IP
and opinions. Okay, I'll start out by saying I do have like 200 hours in Starfield, but that's because, for one, I was making YouTube videos on them, so probably half of that was YouTube content creation. There's so many ways I could go. I guess we could start up with the obvious of the exploration. But the exploration in Bethesda games, I would say, is the second most important thing other than the music. The music in Starfield is great. If you look at what people say about Starfield, they'll say the music is great, and it is. It is good. Really good. It is really good. But if you have great music, but the rest of the game doesn't, you know, isn't a good video game, you know, and I'll go into why I think this. So the exploration, let's say in Skyrim, you leave, what's it called? The Helgen sewer area or whatever it's called, right? And you come out, and then you see all the mountains, and you can go anywhere, and then you come across a little camp, and then you come across a mine, and they're not too far apart. They're like, let's say, a minute or two distance of just traveling between them. But then on the way, you'll find little things. You'll find the Guardian Stone. You'll see Bleak Falls Barrow. It's like, oh, all these places I could go. And then they'll get to Riverwood. Oh, now you can go to Whiterun. You go to Whiterun. Oh, there's a stable that can take me anywhere on the map. Exploration. You have all this freedom of exploration. Okay, so then we go into Starfield. You're in the mine, and I'm not saying it's all bad. So you're in the mine, and then you're doing all that, and then you come out and you see the whole planet, and you're like, oh my God. And then the spaceship comes down, and then I can go on that spaceship and go to any other planet. So you go up, then you're in, so you're kind of still in the, what do you call it? The immersion at this point. You get in the spaceship, this is spoilers for anyone that hasn't played the game, kind of mild spoilers at the start. You go up, then you're in space, you do a little dogfight. Oh, we have to go to this planet. You land. Oh, this planet's completely different to the other one. There's aliens there. There's a thing. There's a place we got to go to. And then we go to a city. So like the first 15, 20 hours of the game is really immersive. But after that, it falls off massively, because then you're like, oh, you know, you might still be in the excitement, in the immersion. You're like, oh, I'm going to go explore this star system. You go there, and then there's like an empty moon with some resources on it. You land on it, but you're excited. You're like, oh, I want to see what's on this moon. You land there. Okay, there's some water and some helium thread. I could mine them. There's a space station, like a mining outpost. It's really far away, though. All right, I'm going to run to it. I want to see what's over there. So you run there. It takes you like 10 minutes to get there. You get there. There's just a couple of bad guys there. You clear them out, get some basic loot. And it's like, man, that took a while to do. It wasn't really worth it. You do that a couple more times, and then you start repeating places because there's not many different outposts that they built. They end up repeating very quickly on different planets, like the different POIs you can clear. And then you start to realize exploring isn't fun in this game. It takes me so long to find something interesting. The best part is just looking at the visuals, but then that wears off after a minute or two being on a planet. So it doesn't have a good pacing of gameplay, a good pacing of exploration. When you compare it to Skyrim, for example, where, you know, you can get on a carriage, you're in a whole different place. There's all these camps, there's all these different quests you can do, which there are quests in Starfield, but they're so far, you know, there's so many planets in that game, so many star systems. They're so spread out, and it doesn't have the same. It's too big for its own good, I guess, is the best way to put it. It went too wide, and it suffers in gameplay massively because of it. I think if they stuck to one star system, had them fully fleshed out with a lot tighter content, kept it tighter so that your experience didn't wander off into a part of the galaxy where there's nothing, and then you get bored and drop the game because you get disappointed that, you know, there's nothing here. I spent all this time to come out here. I've explored all the planets in this star system. There wasn't really anything that you know, I found very interesting. That's where Starfield fucked up. Big time. They fucked up. They made wrong decisions, and it suffered greatly because of it. I see where they were going for with it. You know, like you come out of that starter area and you're like, oh, there's all these planets I can go to, when you're still in the immersive part, the excited part. But once you realize that there's not much to do out there. There is things, but like I said, they're so spread out. And then there's other things I could say about Starfield, like the tone of the game altogether. I don't really enjoy it. Feels like a lot of the city feels like the main city feels like you're walking through an Apple store. It just didn't connect with me. And there's so many more things I could say. One thing they did do right was the shipbuilding. So
it's so
that
good.
was one thing. Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's not all bad, but the gameplay loop and beats. So a game that came out a similar time to Starfield, I don't know exactly how far between they are, but Elden Ring. If you compare it to that, okay,
Elden Ring was like a couple years before, if I remember correctly.
But I mean, for AAA games, it's not very.
Oh yeah. Relatively soon after.
Same era. So if you put on a timer and was like, you know, you walk out of that starter area, bang, there's a boss there straight away. And then, bang, you go over here, there's a cave with another boss. You're in a good gameplay loop because there's things to do and they're exciting and they're challenging. And then you come out to Starfield, you go to a star system, and then another thing, like let's say I travel to a star system, it's a loading screen, that takes you out of immersion, big time. I understand those limitations, but anyway, so then you get in and you're like, oh, I just want to fly around a bit. But you're in just a box and there's nothing really in that box. So you're like, okay, flying around is kind of boring. Okay, I'll land on a planet. You're in another box and there's, like I said, there's all repeating dungeons. The exploration isn't rewarding. It's not challenging. It's too far and few between for the content. It's not very interesting. And it's just straight up boring. And I like slower paced games, don't get me wrong. But that's like on a whole nother level of, like, people call it nowadays, I see videos coming up calling it a cozy game. Well, what is coziness? It's just content with being bored and just relaxing, I guess, right? Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but like
I will say that especially when it comes to like the base building, like you can build those like those pods that have like glass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like just in your ship. I will say just kind of like chilling out and just like standing there. It's
immersive in the moment, but then when it comes down to gameplay and going to do something, which is what you're doing 95% in a game, like Bethesda is good at the quiet moments for sure.
Yes,
their worlds are immersive, the music is good, and that's why Fallout 4 and Skyrim work. But the content is condensed. If you think about how big Fallout 4 is, it's not a very big map, but there's a decent amount of content, but it's condensed. Right, it doesn't take you long to get from Sanctuary to Red Rocket. Then it's like, oh, there's a bit of content there. You kill the mole rats, you got a new settlement, there's dog meat. Content, there's something to do. It's keeping you in the game. You go to Concord, You know, there's lots of things to do and it doesn't take long to get to them. Starfield, there's all these loading screens. You'll go somewhere, there might not even be anything there. And then if there is something there, it's a repeat of what you've already done, you know. It's just a really bad gameplay design, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people agree going by the downfall. I mean, have you seen... It's kind of sad. On Steam, that game's got like 2,000 people playing. I'll check right now because I'm kind of curious. But like, if you compare that to Skyrim and Fallout 4, it is just... It's not a very popular... Yeah, it's got 3,000 people in game right now. Fallout 4, I mean, the show just come out, but it's got 28,000. And then even Skyrim, which doesn't have its show, I'm sure. I got to find it on my Steam library.
And it's like it's over a decade old. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's down to those key things of the gameplay. The moment to moment is too short. Too long to get to moment, and too repetitive and not rewarding enough either. Like if you think about the simple core elements that make a game fun, it missed the mark on all of them. Like of the gameplay elements, it had great tone, music, really good music, which tied things together. It did have interesting quests. I think they did things right. Like the character creator was really good with the background traits, and you could pick the 3 like starting things. That was great.
Yeah, and like, some of the RPG systems, how they sort of like brought back like the older Fallout systems, where like certain perks or certain abilities will have things
exactly.
that like speech options.
Bethesda
stuff.
Are not incompetent, but the game they chose to make led because of the technology they had. I don't think it's necessarily... I don't want to say it's not Bethesda's fault because they made the decisions that led to where it was. It is their fault, right? They made these decisions. No one else did. It's not like they're a victim. But the game they chose to make, which is a space game, which will take you to other planets, and I'm sure it was a marketing decision to make it massive. 1,000 planets, right? You can't fill that much content. And people are going to go out and explore. This is a thing people will say. Just don't go out and explore these empty planets. Well, then why have them in the game? People are going to go there because they're curious. We have a curiosity. That's the whole point of the tone of the game is it's space. I have a curiosity to see what's out there. You go out there and there's not really much. When people say, well, that's what it would be like, you know. Well, it doesn't make for a very interesting gameplay loop. You know, it might be fun as a simulator game, like a relaxing simulator game, but as a gameplay loop, it's got a very niche audience. I don't think, you know.
There's a very thin intersectionality between like realism and fun.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, back to Elden Ring, like that game's very immersive. Like doesn't need to be realistic to be immersive. That game has crazy things in it. It's still immersive when you're playing it, but it's immersive for the right reasons because you're getting into the gameplay, the challenge of it, the art, obviously. Like the art of Starfield is great, but it's missing core elements that make a video game fun. And then there's so many other things too, like the outpost building was a massive downgrade to Fallout 4, and I think they did that because Starfield has so much content in it. This is the thing, but it's so wide as well, so it's more spread out. It has more content than any of the other Bethesda games, but it needed, if they were going to have 1,000 planets, it needed so much more. It would have been impossible. We'd still be waiting on it.
You wanna hear my like conspiracy theory regarding Starfield?
Okay. I'm listening.
So first, when it comes to like story beats specifically and stuff like that, I think it mostly just suffers because like Bethesda, like
the story too is horrible.
Like Bethesda's never really been like story hasn't ever really
at least the main story stuff. It's usually the kind of small quests and kind of world building that makes the story good, but the main quest is never fantastic. Never anything groundbreaking.
I think that the way that they built the main story in Starfield is interesting. Having it sort of like New Game Plus is like a part of the story. That's kind of interesting.
It is clever to tie that into gameplay for sure. It is clever, but it's not enough to make the game, because then you have to to experience that piece of content. You got to go through the whole game. You know,
I will probably say that the intro section like the mining section and getting out of the mining, and then like into space, like you were talking about there, I would probably say that that's like top
The strongest
5
part.
Bethesda intros. Because like
Yeah, well, it's great. Like it's a cool. That's what I mean. The game tricks you into thinking. Well, it doesn't trick you. Well, every game tricks you. So it does a good job at the start, I guess, is what I'm saying. You get immersed, you're in it. But then once you get past kind of that little, I guess you can call it like like a Disney World. I'm forgetting the name for these things. Like a theme park.
Yeah.
So once you get out of the theme park and then you're in the real game, it's just empty. That's what it perceives as. And it's not empty, that's the thing. But, it's not condensed enough.
Yeah.
Is the biggest problem with Starfield. And I think they thought they could get away with it. I think they thought there's enough here. It'll work. I think a lot of people working at Bethesda would have seen this as an issue, and it would have been but for the game they were trying to make, it's impossible to have 1,000 planets and to have content as condensed as their other games.
Well, and like that's where my conspiracy theory comes into play, because so like it revolves specifically around the scope of the game. It's sort of a 2-part thing. It revolves around the scope of the game, the shipbuilding element, and then like the size, specifically the amount of space that you can build in settlement mode.
Well, a lot of it's AI generated. Kind of. It's not AI generated, but it's generative.
Yeah, they did.
Which again makes it kind of repetitive and boring.
But there's like a specific technology they use for like the map generation. Like it is like AI, but it's not like generative AI. It's like terrain AI. They did the same thing with
it's a bot they programmed to be able to create different world spaces. With different
I think they did the same thing with 76's map, if I remember correctly.
Well, they did that with Skyrim too, but then they go in and they fine tune it. Then they add that human element and make it more interesting, because what the AI does isn't good enough, right? Let's be honest. It's boring. Like you land on a Starfield planet. It may look beautiful for a minute, but then where's the content? I have to go all the way out there and it's something I've already done. I'm closing the game and playing something else. It's really that simple.
This is where my conspiracy theory comes into play. Like you take those big 3 elements, the size of the game's universe, literally in this case, the shipbuilding elements, and then the size, the amount of space that you can take up in Outpost.
Yes.
I think that twofold. One, I think that the space, the amount of like free real estate that you have out there, was specifically designed as sort of like the natural finality of their whole concept around like creating modding or like modding accessibility to begin with, because like you think
a sandbox game,
because like especially like
for modders,
like in Infinite one too, because like you think like you go to a planet, you pick a planet or like a moon or anything, and then you can land anywhere on the surface of that moon or that planet, and it's a different location every single time.
It's a cool concept. It's like, and I'm sure this was how it started, was like, this is great for our games because we have a big modding community. But then when you actually play it, no wonder not many people are making mods for it, because the game itself needs to be condensed and then people can expand. Yeah, anyway, I'm going back into points of already. You go.
Well, I mean, like it is like that is a big part of it. I think that it's great for modders. It's probably amazing. Yeah. It's definitely amazing for modders. I've seen some of the mods that people have made for it so far, and like they're crazy good.
Yeah,
like they're,
but like nobody's playing them. That's the problem.
That's the problem. It seems like it was a game more made for modders as opposed to like the players, which funnily enough is where the second part of this conspiracy theory comes in when you think about like shipbuilding.
I don't think it's a conspiracy at all. I think this is definitely they thought that would have been there would have been a conversation of, think about all the mods people could make. That's not a conspiracy at all.
Oh no, yeah, like definitely. Like I say conspiracy theory more in like the tin hat, I'm a crazy man until somebody proves me wrong. But like with those other 2 elements, I think that it's there's a much stronger argument to be made that Bethesda most likely made this for like modders, like specifically, but then also are using it as a test bed for at the very least Elder Scrolls 6.
Okay,
Like,
I have a theory about Elder Scrolls 6. Do we want to segue into that now?
Yeah. Let me talk about the details that I think, and then we can lean into what you think. Because a couple of things that I've been hearing is that there's going to be like, what is it? There's also going to be ship building, but more so along the lines.
Well, no, I kind of assumed that. I don't think I've heard it. I assumed because they had the shipbuilding in Starfield, right?
Yeah, because like and then the settlement size thing is like you might be able to engage in like either fort or like small township buildings. Yeah. And then like it just makes you think of like a lot of other elements that are in other specifically like Skyrim and Fallout, where they sort of like all like work off of each other. Like you could probably see the settlement building in Fallout 4 as like a natural continuation from the homestead building from Skyrim. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts and stuff on Elder Scrolls 6 are.
Okay. So this is Kort's official prediction.
Official.
This is a Kort's official prediction. If I get this right and you come back to this video, I had no idea this was real. This is how ballsy I'm being right now. I'm calling myself out, saying that this is I'm very confident in this. Now Todd Howard's going to watch this video and he's going to change everything that I'm going to say.
You hear that, Kort, in the future? We're calling you out.
Yeah. Okay. I believe it's going to be in High Rock and Hammerfell. They're going to be connected through a water space. That's how you get in between them. You'll be able to make your own ship. And that's great. If they left it at this, where they had two condensed world spaces, and they had different tones in each of them, and they merged together into a storyline. Maybe there was a war between them or something. Fantastic, right? Bang. There's Elder Scrolls 6. Two continents fighting together. You can choose which one. Two continents, not just Skyrim, Civil War. Two whole continents with whole different tones that you can explore. Basically, two games in one fighting together. Big sea battles. Amazing. This is where I think they're going to go wrong. They're going to have a a generative ocean area that leads you into lands like an island or something with generative content, same as Starfield. And people are going to do that and they're going to get bored because the content's going to be too far, in between, same as Starfield. It's not going to be engaging enough or challenging enough or interesting enough. And I think that's where the downfall and the biggest criticism of Elder Scrolls 6 will be. But I think as long as you stay away from that part of the game, you can enjoy it.
Do you think that they will have learned enough from?
I think they would have learned from it, and they might try to condense the content more and make it more interesting, but they're not going to go away from it because they have the technology. They would have invested so much into that technology, and it's like every game they bring out, they always kind of improve the technology from the last. It's never, I wouldn't say never adding new technology, but they're always recycling isn't the right word, but reusing and improving upon their previous technology, right?
Refining, that would be a better word. Yeah.
So that they will try to refine this part of the game, but I don't think it can be because I think fundamentally it doesn't fit in a Bethesda game where it's a condensed. They're massive games, Skyrim and Fallout 4. There's a lot of content, but compared to Starfield, they're a very condensed experience in a condensed world that's made as a theme park by a human for you to experience. And then it works because you're going through it, you're seeing things that they put there for you to see, and it's intriguing you, you're getting quests. As soon as it's generative and it's massive, it's not Minecraft. Don't put that in a Bethesda game. Keep it out of it. You don't need that part of the game. It's just going to make it worse. You can still have the boats and stuff. I'm talking to you, Todd. You listen to me, Todd. You better cut that out of the game right now. If you're watching this podcast, Todd, you got to cut that part out of the game.
Kort, don't antagonize him. He'll start rapidly approaching your location.
Just see him behind me, like just a cardboard cutout behind me.
Right, like I'm going to show you what else just works. It's not going to be your knees.
But yeah, I think I know Todd Howard's not watching this. But
wow.
Let's just hypothetically say he is, because I want to get this out of my system. Get that part out of the game. It doesn't need to be there. You could still have the ship part of the game and just have it between the continents and have handcrafted islands that you need to get to from the ships with their own content, their own lore, their own tone, and it's all crafted by a human to experience for you, not generative and boring and random and too far in between. Just have some, maybe you have 5 little islands where they have their own little quests. They're all unique little homes, little towns with their own unique stories that you can go there, and you need a boat to get there, so people will still use the boats. And then have like a little sea in between where you can do things and fight other boats and things and kill traders if you want to be bad. You don't need the generative part of it that doesn't need to exist. It's just no one will want to play it, but people will, and then they'll judge their experience from that. And they'll stop playing the game from that because it'll be boring, same as Starfield. They just need to cut it. Cut it off. It's not going to work. That's my opinion. And again, this is all theory, but it's a calculated theory. It's not just like, this is what I want. This is like going off of a lot of different things. Obviously, we got the trailer. I think it was High Rock. People like put all the things together and realized it was High Rock. Then, people are saying it's going to be Hammerfell and High Rock. And then you think about the shipbuilding and they always try to add something new each time. And Skyrim was dragons. What's Elder Scrolls 6 going to be? Pretty good chance it's ships. It could also be they don't do ships and they just do the castle building and townships. And maybe you could maybe you become a king of like the whole province or something, right? And then, like I said, it was the province versus province, and then you can build castles and then they have to defend against attacks. Maybe they go that route and they don't do the ships, or maybe knowing Bethesda, they'll try and do both, and they'll both probably fall a little bit too short. They should probably condense it and pick one or the other. And if you're asking me, scrap the whole shipbuilding thing. Maybe have that as a DLC. I know people don't like DLCs, but it's probably better off if they just focused on one to begin with and probably have it the castle building and keep it on the land. Then maybe you get a ship, you can build a ship, you go to another place, and that's the DLC place.
Do you think that Bethesda games are better at doing that, like incorporating more gameplay elements that seem
lots
like
of systems
together.
More
like systems heavy games.
Do you think that? For sure. Well, think about Skyrim, like they have enchanting, they have alchemy, they have smithing, and these are all like sandbox things. You don't have to ever engage with them and you can still play the game. But when you do engage with them, they because they're sandboxy, they can create role play, they can create like a gameplay interest of trying to make your character better. Like they're all systems that work together. And also because they're condensed, you think about smithing and all the crafting, they're very condensed. And I think they did it really good in Fallout 4 with the whole junk system because it tied it all together as well and it felt more natural. Like everything was tied, the settlement building, the crafting, and it was all done well. Then you go to Starfield's crafting system, big downgrade from Fallout 4. The outpost system, big downgrade. I think they just reached too far. Bethesda need to have a smaller scope like they've done for their other games. I know people think they're massive, but really, if you look at them, they're not. They're just condensed. But, the world spaces are decently big, but for their time, they were. You look now, Elden Ring, that game is way bigger than any Bethesda game if you don't count Starfield. But it condensed. It was big, but it had condensed. You'd go along. It wouldn't be far before you found a cave with a challenging boss. You could be stuck there for an hour, and there's content there. And it would be different. I mean, sometimes they reuse. This is actually one thing I have to say about Elden Ring. We'll just be quick on this because most people probably aren't interested in Elden Ring that are watching this. But for those of you that are, one gripe I had with Elden Ring is that they reused bosses. That's what we used before. But that's because the game was so big in scope. Again, the bigger you get, the harder it is to fill. So I feel like games nowadays need to go back to just trying to have really high quality, not have it small so that it feels like you finish too quick. But games nowadays are trying to be way too big, and it is hindering the experience.
Which is interesting, especially when you think of like to like get on a real quick tangent here, real quick. Especially when you think of like some of the truly biggest games, just like in general. I mean, not like in history, because funnily enough, that wraps us right back around to Bethesda with what was it, Elder Scrolls 2, I think technically has the biggest world space.
Generative, right? So do you count generative or do you count handcrafted?
Yeah.
Well, technically, it would be Minecraft. Would be the biggest.
And then that's another technical aspect. But when it comes to like especially like the smaller games, because like you mentioned that, and the first thing that came to my mind was what is it? Hello Games and like No Man's Sky and their like recent
trying to fill that,
and their recent thing, Light No Fire, that's it.
And they have that world-sized,
and like that's the interesting thing, because I think you can have those like smaller, more focused mechanics, but still set them in like a giant, massive world. Yeah. But it's still
for a Bethesda game, I don't think it works. But you can, like Minecraft works.
Because I think it's specific on your point, specifically for Bethesda. Bethesda is known so much for like such good like environmental storytelling too.
Yeah, and questing is what drives your experience and drives you to do the next thing in Bethesda games. And when you have all these areas that don't have any quests, you know, what are you doing there, you know? And then you kind of get lost, and then you're bored, and then it's like you almost fall off the. It's almost like you're in a theme park, and then you wander down, and then you're just out in the forest, and you're like, oh, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's nothing to do over here. What am I doing? How do I get back? Oh, you know, and it's just like you're lost at that point. So keep the walls in the theme park. Don't let us escape. Have a big theme park. We don't want it small, but there's a limit. I think game companies are just like bigger, bigger, bigger. I think where Skyrim was with that world, perfect size. Doesn't need to be any bigger. And because their team's getting bigger, like Bethesda's team, they could condense the content even more and have the content that's there. Instead of trying to create even more, just have the content in that area be higher quality. Because you have bigger teams, they can spend more time on one thing. You don't need to get bigger. What the size Skyrim is and Fallout 4 is perfect. They don't need to be bigger in land size.
Or just like get more used to like the empty spaces. Because I'm also thinking of like, because I mean, you know, Hello Games, No Man's Sky, and then their upcoming game are I think like the extreme example. I think a more like realistic example.
But they're different games.
Yeah, and like that's what I'm driving at. Yeah. I think that like a better example is like Red Dead Redemption, right? Because it's that same thing where it's still like, you know, very locational driven, something that Bethesda is really good at. But then you have those other locations that are just landscape and just the nothing. And the point is you're out in the nothing going to another place. But it's those condensed places where like all the story and all the mechanics happen. But then you have the scope, which creates like the largeness of the world.
Which that's what they were going for with Starfield. But think about Red Dead. You're on your horse in the city, you ride out, and now you're in the wilderness. There was no loading screen. You're immersed. But as soon as there's a loading screen, it clicks something in your brain. And then it takes you out of that past experience that you just had. Gone. You're no longer in that. You're no longer in that tone, in that feeling. It's gone. And then you load back in, and then new. Okay, where am I? You have to reorientate yourself, and then all these, you know, and then you have to. Okay, I'm in space. I want to go to this planet. You go through all the UI. It's not immersive, right? It's like, imagine if Red Dead, each time you wanted to go to another place, you had to like. So I actually think this is really interesting. So let's say you're in a city in Red Dead, and every time you get to the edge of it, there's a wall you hit, and you have to click E, and then you go through a loading screen, and it puts you not on the other side of that wall, but somewhere else, far out, kind of, it'll say like a kilometer or two. Sorry, I use miles, mile or two out in some direction, kind of in that way you were going, and you have to reorientate yourself. You're no longer immersed.
Yeah,
you know,
the loading screens in Starfield didn't do it. Probably the biggest.
Well, it's not even the biggest thing, because when you're in Skyrim and you enter a city from the gate, it puts you on the other side of that gate. You don't have to reorientate yourself. You know where you are. You're on the other side of the gate. But when you go from a loading screen from one star system to another, you're always reorientating yourself. Whereas if that was a smooth transition where you actually did it, like in No Man's Sky, it doesn't take you out of that. You're like it's more of a natural flow, you know, of gameplay. It keeps you immersed. It doesn't draw you out and back in.
You yourself have described yourself more so like currently with your ongoing series as a Fallout YouTuber.
Yep.
Funnily enough, we have not really spoken about any other Fallout game except Fallout 4 and
True.
touching a little bit
We
on
haven't.
Fallout 76. But with that, Fallout's, you know, the games aren't the only thing anymore. So when it comes to the larger
The show.
the show Fallout Prime,
Yes. The show.
when it comes to the larger Fallout ecosystem, like the other games, and then more so recently Fallout Prime.
Yes.
What is your like relationship with those games? Because again, like
Okay.
I kind of described you as like a Bethesda YouTuber, but
Yeah.
now I mean it's probably something you've more so fallen
Fallout
into.
is probably my, you know, Fallout 4 is probably my favorite game of all time. But that's not saying that. But it's like, that doesn't mean it has everything is perfect and that's what makes it. Like, the story of Fallout 4 is not my favorite story, but everything combined, and the gameplay and the settlement building, the junk system, the lore, everything, all of it combined is what makes it special to me. And that's what I would say puts it in at least my top 3. I don't know if I'd say favorite of all time, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's not your favorite,
but
it's not the favorite title, it's just the favorite game. Like that's something that I get asked all the time and I have to delineate, well, like, it's like, what are you asking, story? Are you asking game?
Yeah, if you combine everything together, that's my favorite game. So where I began, this is an interesting story. So when I was a kid, I don't know how old I was. I would have been pretty young. I was going, so I'm in a country town. Oh, don't want to give away too much information, but anyway. So we had to drive kind of to another town where there was a game store if I wanted to get a video game. So we were going up there for some reason, and I went to the game store, and I was like, "Do you have any games?" I was a kid, right? So I didn't know all the new games. I didn't really have internet back then, so I didn't know what games were what. I had to go to the game store and look at the covers, and then that's when I found out what games were out. What, you know, like old school. I'm not old. I don't think I'm old. I'm 24. Anyway, tangent aside, and I was like, "Oh, do you have any games like Skyrim?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we have this game here called Fallout 3." And I saw the cover and I'm like, "Oh my God, that looks awesome." And I was like, "Is this like Skyrim?" He's like, "Yeah, it was made by the same people." And then I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to have the same experience as Skyrim." Little did I know it was a lot of an older game, right? I didn't know that at the time. So we were driving home. I'm looking at the cover as you did, you know, I don't know if you ever did this, but you'd look at the cover and you're like, "Oh," and then turn it around. I can't wait to, you know, get in the game. I put it in. It loads up and I'm like, "Oh, the graphics are a bit rough." And I'm like, I was a kid. Nowadays, that doesn't matter to me. But as a kid, it mattered a lot for me, for sure. And I was like, man, and then the gameplay was quite clunky and I couldn't get into it. I was like, all right. And I put it down after a bit. I didn't get too far. Fallout 4 comes around a few years later. I play that and then I play the shit out of it. And then I was like, okay, I got to go. I wanted more Fallout. I went back, played the shit out of Fallout 3 and experienced everything just about that game had, right? And then so that's how I experienced Fallout 3. It was technically my first Fallout game. Now, then we get to Fallout New Vegas. I'm still actually, so I bought that game after Fallout 4 for my PS3, but I never got too into it. It never grabbed me and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play." It never sparked that magic. I'm sure if, like, it's done it now because I have a playthrough running and I'm really enjoying the game. But back then, it never grabbed me and I never played it. But I am currently playing the game and I've never finished it. So I've actually been streaming it on Twitch. I haven't recently, but I was doing it a few months ago and I want to get back to it. But I've just gotten to the strip and I went to Caesar's camp. Spoilers. I just went to his camp to, like, it was like a quest. I don't know. And I just killed him as soon as I got there. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to kill him. Because the game lets you do that. So that's where I'm up to in Fallout New Vegas. I don't know how it ends, so we won't get too much into that. But yeah. And then Fallout 76. it's a shit game all together, but it can be fun to just jump on and kill some things. I haven't done it in a long time. That's what I did back in the day. It was like I didn't really have many games to play. I enjoyed Fallout. You know, it was kind of fun to get on and gamble your way into finding a good legendary weapon and building a build. That's kind of what I did in that game for a bit there on the PS4. But fundamentally, as a whole experience, I don't think Fallout 76 is the way forward for Bethesda, and I don't think it's a very good game.
What about Fallout Prime? Where's that?
Oh
land
yes,
on
the
your
show.
whole-
The show.
the big thing.
So the show was coming out. So we'll go back to before it was coming out, and I was like, you know, my reputation, Bethesda's reputation isn't the best. It's really bad. If the show wasn't there, it would be even worse. So you know, we had Fallout 76 and Starfield, and I was like, oh, this show's gonna. I didn't have high hopes. So it come out. I'm watching it day one. Watched the first episode, and I was kind of like, okay. I'm still skeptical. But I was like, okay, it was all right. Okay, it was all right. I watched the second episode. I'm like, fuck, they might have actually cooked something up here. And then I just binged the whole series. I was like, that was fucking amazing. Like the cinematography, the props, the story, the characters, everything wasn't perfect, but you know, they did a really, really good job with season one. Really good job. I loved how the story tied together with everything and how, you know, all the characters intertwined and the whole cold fusion thing and the pre-war parts. I mean, Walton Goggins, I mean, come on, it was amazing. I'm not a big, like, show watching movies and shows, but, man, that show was awesome. Anyway, now into season 2. It started out, and I feel like the first 4... So, as of the time of this recording, we just had episode 5 of season 2. So we're going off of that. You know, this is what we know so far. So if there's, you know, things in the future that we don't, if someone's watching this in the future, we had no idea about this. So that's where we're up to. I feel like the first 4 episodes didn't really have like the beats. They were more just about the world, bringing people into New Vegas, which was fine. But I feel like people were expecting more of the story. Like episode 5 was when we really got into the deep part of the story. I'm like, okay, now it's getting really good with the story. The first 4 episodes, and especially because we've had to wait a week this time around, just getting little bits of New Vegas without really progressing the story that much. Like what? Okay, we're going to get into spoilers. If you haven't watched it, maybe skip this part. Is it
if
okay
you haven't watched it and
here?
you're at this point with that, because I usually do like chapters. If you're listening to the Fallout Prime chapter and you're not and you're worried about spoilers, what are you doing here?
yeah. Okay, so spoiler alert. I'm gonna spoil the first kind of half of season 2. So if you haven't watched it, maybe just skip ahead skip ahead to the next chapter. Anyway, so you've had your warning. Don't whinge in the comments. So this is what I'm getting back to my point. So what really happened was, you know, so I ended with the cold fusion thing. The Brotherhood had that, and then the characters kind of split off, Ghoul and Lucy. So then the first episode was kind of showing those two characters together in New Vegas, and then it brought in the Khans, and it brought in like New Vegas references with the Novak and stuff, right? And then they kind of went off. I can't remember exactly what happened next, but like the story as a grand scheme of things it's been very slow going in the first 4 episodes, and it's more just been about introducing the world of New Vegas to the viewer of the show that might not even, you know, most of the viewers that watch the show probably haven't even played Fallout or definitely not New Vegas. Such an old game. I'd say probably 70% of the Fallout Prime viewers, this is a complete speculation, but if I had to guess, probably 70% of the Fallout Prime viewers haven't played New Vegas, know nothing about it. It'd be a lot of casual watchers. So it's been introducing the world, and as someone that's, you know, quite fluent in Fallout, it hasn't been the most interesting thing. It's been cool. Cinematography's been cool. The sets, it's been immersive. But now, the Deathclaw was cool for sure. But now that we're in episode 5, I feel like it's getting back to that season 1 story of like, okay, it's tying itself together. It's getting interesting now. The first episodes weren't really interesting to me, but they were cool. They were cool. Fallout, it was cool. But the story wasn't really very interesting. But now I'm very excited. I can't wait for the next episode. The story's getting good.
I also had very similar feelings about the first episode, at least. I'm little
It was
further
kind of, the pacing was off as well. It went straight into it, and there wasn't an ease into it. I felt like it was like, oh,
because like I have a little bit of experience in like specifically like film and television. I like early on in my like educational career, that's more what I started leaning into. So I'm a little bit more of like, I don't want to say film savvy because that makes me sound like a pretentious asshole, because only pretentious assholes say that they're film savvies.
You have some knowledge about
yeah. I got a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of experience. The first episode did not have good pacing. It like you said, it definitely felt like
I thought that too. I didn't know if I was the only one that thought this.
Nope.
I'm glad that other people think the same. Like, it threw you into it, and then halfway through the episode is when I feel like they should have started with the pacing halfway through, because that's when it was like, oh, everything was jarring, it was all happening, it was action, it was fast, and then we're going here to here to here, we're jumping to place, and then it went, okay, now it's like calming down, and now the story's coming in. Like, pretty much like when the pre-war Cooper Howard part, you know what I mean? That part of the episode was when I was like, okay, it's coming together, I'm getting back immersed again. The first bit was just kind of fanfare, and it felt...
I think that was intentional. I think the first episode was meant to be that, just sort of like a quick, like, all right, here we go, we're in the story, we're gonna move things along, and now we're here, and we can begin, because I think this is something more so specific that they didn't intentionally. They were just, with the first episode, it was mostly just like getting us like caught up and sped up a little bit with like Lucy and then the ghoul and the mission that they're specifically on.
It was action.
Yeah.
It was just action here, there.
Which I will admit, I didn't get as excited.
It should have been at the end of the episode. It should have been at the end, because if they started out just easing into it, like, you know, getting you in the like a certain feeling, and then bang, and then it happened, you know, and then they had the big iron playing and that, and it was more of an ease into it, it would have hit so much harder. Rather than just starting out with that, it was a bit like as a viewer that, you know, you're coming back into it and you're kind of reacquainting yourself with these characters and everything in the world, and then it's just straight into it. It was too much for a viewer. It was too much. It was. I had to rewatch it twice I had to go back and rewatch it. I rewatched it the next day, and then I rewatched it again the day after that, and then I started to be like, okay, this is, you know, I started to like pick up on things a bit better. Like, I didn't even really. Like, the first time I watched it, the whole two Mr. House things went right over my head, because everything was so fast, and it was like, whoa, I'm still trying to remember what just happened, and then all these things, it was too fast pacing.
I will say I didn't have as big of a reaction of it, but as from what I've seen, or what I had seen when the episode first dropped, the big iron scene, oh, that hit so well for some people. Like, they're like,
yeah, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, because I kind of saw it coming. And okay, can we talk about the nuclear winter guy? That was ridiculous. That was complete
I actually
fanfare.
thought was like, I thought that was actually really good, because it was basically, it might not have been intentional,
okay.
but it was taking like the meme of it.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what they were doing, but it was kind of cheesy in that way. And because it was funny, but then he kept saying it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, but then that creates like such an interesting potential for just like the game itself, because like then you start to think like, oh, like you go back, and because like a lot of characters in the game just like say that, and then you kind of think like, oh, if that's like, you know, like they're under the
I don't think
hypnosis.
It's that deep.
Like,
I don't think it's that deep.
It's probably
I
not.
think they just did it for fanfare.
It's probably not, but it gets your brain thinking. You know, it gets the wheels turning. But with episode 1, and then like the subsequent episodes, one of the really interesting things that I noticed in episode 1 specifically, we don't see Maximus in the episode at all.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, his story is just like not there. 2?
Huh? It starts out with him, doesn't it? In episode 2?
I can't remember if it starts out with him, but yeah, we get more stuff from him in like, you know, the subsequent episodes. Yeah. And I think that was mostly intentional, partially so that they could use the first episode to sort of like, you know, establish like where Lucy.
Well, they had a lot of the vault stuff as well in the first. I think in the first, what did they have in the first episode? They had the vault stuff, right? They had the Lucy and the ghoul. They had pre-war, And was there something else as well?
Let's see. There was
There was Mr. House.
Yep, there was House. There was
Yeah,
there
so there
was
was
pre-war stuff
4
with
things.
Cooper.
If they had another thing there, it would have been way too much squeezed in.
Yeah, and I think that's why they saved Maximus until later. But more so, I think that a bigger focus is Maximus's story for this one, because it feels like they're kind of like one foot in front of the other. And
I think it's going to tie together.
Yeah,
I think all the characters are going to tie together with their stories, because we see in the trailer, we see Maximus in the power armor fighting the Deathclaw at the strip. So, and by the way, spoiler, like we see the Ghoul die, quotation marks, last episode. He's not dead because he's in the trailer in a further episode. When I saw him die, I was like, they've done it! I can't believe they've done it. What are they doing?
And then I was Game of Thrones, and then
like 5 seconds later, I was like, wait.
Yeah, like, oh wait, no, never mind. They didn't.
He's in the trailer later on, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a bit silly too, and I don't like how they ended it on that, because it's like a TV cliche cliffhanger.
Yeah, but it was really dramatic too. Like I don't think anybody actually thought that he was going to, like, he's not alive anymore. No. But it's the exclamation point on the scene. But I think that the thing that's going on, because it feels like we're wrapping up Lucy's story, because Lucy's story is just her interaction with her dad and stuff. But I think that after that, I think that 2 things are going to happen. One, I don't think Barb and Janie are actually in those cryo tubes. I think they're somewhere else. But
yeah, because they had them fogged out when they showed them, so that it was kind of still a mystery. They showed they were there, but they didn't show what was inside. Yeah.
Yep. And then I think Maximus is going to be like, this is like one of those like smaller theories that might be a little bit more out there, but I think one of the going theories with Maximus specifically, obviously he's now like leaving,
he's gone rogue.
He's absconded from the Brotherhood of Steel.
He's an enemy of the Brotherhood now, yeah.
Right, and not only that, he's become a lot more disillusioned with their ideology. So it's incredibly unlikely that he's going to go back. Yeah,
he always was.
He always struggled with it.
The thing that tied him together was family. It gave him a sense of family. Like whenever the elder, I forget his name, the priest elder,
Quintus,
he'd call him his son. That's when it would click and then that's when he'd feel a sense of purpose and family. But then he would always let him down. That guy, like when he was in that fight scene, he wouldn't step in and stop it. And that's when it kind of to click of, this guy doesn't actually care about me. He's just using me.
Yep. It's manipulating him. But we also saw him like pre-war, so we see where he came from, and because the NCR is kind of starting to like reform in the story, metaphorically, and I guess also.
Well, actually. I don't think the NCR, like people, I see a lot online about people saying they've destroyed the NCR. No. There's still other parts of the NCR that are built up. It's just this part over here has been destroyed because that was the Shady Sands remnants, right? So that's all that is. That's not the entire NCR. That's just that part.
That's just one of I think 6 states in the NCR.
Yeah, exactly. People are having a massive reaction over nothing. It's like, oh, Bethesda destroy everything. It's like, for one, Bethesda didn't write that. Yeah, sure, they might have had a say in things.
Yeah,
but
Amazon
they didn't completely write it. And also, I think it's fine, the story. I don't think they've destroyed anything. If it's just progressing and it's just showing what's happened and tying the story into, obviously we know who destroyed it, Hank, right? So it's just tying. It's a way to tie the story together, and I think it's fine. Having things get destroyed is part of storytelling. Not everything goes well, and I think it's fine personally. I think people are overreacting. I think if Oblivion were behind the show, they wouldn't have this reaction. But they have. Oh, sorry. Obsidian, not Oblivion.
I was like, Oblivion, the game? Whoa, that's a twist. Wait a minute.
We've been talking for a while, but yeah, anyway.
Right, yeah. I get you. Yeah. It's funny, too, because I can't remember which, design document videos. I think it was in the No Clip documentary about New Vegas, but one of the things that they had planned for New Vegas, that funnily enough, Bethesda actually stepped in and said, no, let's not do that. They were originally in New Vegas going to write in that San Francisco was actually nuked. But Bethesda came in and was like,
Right.
hey, let's not do that. We kind of want to maybe put this in Fallout 5.
Well, that's funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Because my theory for Fallout 5 was San Francisco. I've said this before.
Yep.
I
That's
didn't know
like,
about this whole thing, them stepping in. And the reason I think this is because there's a bit in the memory den where you're going through Kellogg's memory, the San Francisco Bridge.
And you see it in the gate.
I feel like
and you see
that
it
was
several times. Yeah.
That was a teaser. That was a teaser.
That's like the in terms of like, okay, where's Fallout gonna 5 go? Like, where's Fallout 5 gonna be? It's usually like, where's Fallout 5 gonna be? But it's not San Francisco because we know it's gonna be San Francisco.
That's funny. I've thought I haven't had many conversations about this, and I didn't know about the Bethesda stepping in and nuking San Francisco. So this kind of makes my theory even stronger, which is cool.
And it's
cool.
interesting because it sort of leaves in. I mean, like, as of the time of this recording, I uploaded a short recently that's talking about this maybe phenomenon, maybe actual theory, but I've dubbed it the forever wasteland theory, which, as you said, is basically like, oh, Bethesda's going around and they're just like destroying everything and trying to keep everybody in, like, tin shacks and not let humanity like advance and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have something to say about this as well, but keep going.
Yeah. To wrap up the point here, because I'm really interested in what you have to say. One, because the video went kind of crazy mode on TikTok, and now I'm seeing a whole lot of comments, and I'm like, oh fuck, did I fuck up? Even though it seems like a lot of them are sort of like agreeing. But the basic is, I mean, that is the basic. Bethesda just trying to nuke everything, but there's so many like specific little details that kind of work against that, and there's a lot of narrative structure that more so supports it as being not a bad thing,
feasible,
feasible.
And realistic, and not just this for the. It's like it's not just there for the sake of it to drive the story. It has a reason for them doing that. Yeah,
especially when, like you said, with Hank McClain nuking Shady Sands, it's part of the larger story that they're building with that game itself.
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm curious to hear.
I
your
also have
thoughts
another theory. So this isn't just about the show nuking. This is about, in general, Fallout and the way Bethesda's taking it with civilization not rebuilding. We got to remember, there's super mutants out there. There's ghouls. There's a lot of things in this world that are going against humanity. It's not easy to rebuild with them, like super mutants, and like also. And they're like, oh yeah, but you just get guns and shoot them. Okay, but who's making the ammunition and giving it out to the citizens? There's a lot going against the rebuilding. It makes sense why, and like radiation storms and sickness and drugs and gangs and like society. It's not easy to get a grip on society without it being a wasteland and having all these mutated creatures going against you as well. No wonder. Like, imagine, you finally build up a town and then there's just 10 death claws that roam in, a pack of death claws. You're fucked. You can't kill 10 death claws, just people in a town.
It's funny that you say that specifically, because one of the big, to your point of like, yeah, it's like all these things working against him. One of the larger things, maybe not larger, but like one of the big things working against like forward moving human society, like, betterment and stuff like that,
is itself.
Yeah, that exactly in so many in fewer words, but it's basically like large scale, like township building is a massive undertaking because it requires a lot
and keeping
of
people organized and not
organization, resources, infrastructure.
And a thing that ties, don't want to get religious, but a thing that ties the community together is religion. That's fundamental, right? It has forever. Okay, well, the preconceived religion of Fallout was Christianity in America, okay? I don't think that people are going to believe in Christianity anymore in the Fallout universe because the bombs went off and nuked everything. Okay, well, let's just get in the minds of a Wastelander. Oh, well, obviously, this isn't what I think, but I'm just saying as a Wastelander. Well, obviously, God isn't real because the place is nuked and there's mutated creatures, and that's you got to get in the mindset. So there's not really a religion. So that's when you get cults with cult communities in Fallout and all these things. Like, there's so many little things. It's not just, oh, humans are smart, humans can rebuild. No, there's so many. Like, look how long it took for humans in our world to get to the point where we are now, and to get organized and to get communities and to get it so we're not all just killing each other and tribal, right?
One of the comments on my TikTok video actually leads into that. Somebody pointed out, like, the Dark Ages lasted like 500 years, and that was a literal standstill for humanity.
Yeah. It's not as simple as people think, and that was with religion to tie communities together. So now you think about mutated creatures, you think about radiated water is huge. You need water to survive. All the water in Fallout is irradiated, all the natural water. The stuff that comes from the sky, it must be irradiated because there's radiation storms, and also it's entering the water that's already irradiated. I mean, you might be able to, I don't know if the rain is irradiated in Fallout, but anyway, like if you go to a lake, it's irradiated. You go to a river, it's irradiated. You need to like build these complex industrial machines to purify water. And that's like a fundamental human thing that we need. And then all it takes is one super mutant to come by and blow it up, and then you're set back again. You know,
it doesn't even have to be a super mutant. It could just be some dude fucking whacked down on a jet.
Radroach chewing on the wires, you know? And then it's like, how are they going to get all of these things, all of these resources to build these things when you have the Brotherhood of Steel taking all the technology? All they got to do is come into a town and say, that's ours, like they did with Philly. You know, it's all there for people to see why the rebuilding doesn't happen, but people just choose to blame Bethesda because Bethesda are the easy option instead of thinking about it.
And it's doubly funny too, because you mentioned like, you know, the Brotherhood of Steel coming in and, you know, like saying like, oh, this is our technology now, and then they can't advance. One of the things that I see, maybe not like for everybody, but a big intersectionality that I see with this whole forever wasteland theory is usually like people who point to like Fallout New Vegas as being like, oh, like this is proof that like this forever wasteland theory is true because we see this sort of you know, societal advancement, ignoring literally all of the like, you know,
the war
house in general, him deliberately protecting the strip, all of the like pre-built stuff, ignoring all of that. We're talking about like the older games.
So if he hadn't, you know.
Yeah, but talking about like the older games, like the more like Obsidian, Black Isle, Interplay, that kind of stuff, we see in advancement with the NCR from Fallouts 1 to 2. But the big thing that like nobody really points out is that it fuck. Now I'm trying to remember what it was because I had something there.
You've lost your train of thought. Yeah,
it was really profound. It's like there's proof that stuff is active and can happen, but like you said,
but it takes organization, and it's not easy to organize people and get them all on the same. You know, it takes a leader. That's what it really comes down to. The wasteland needs, or the people of the wasteland need a leader. And all it takes was for one dude, they're in the wasteland, it's lawless. It takes one dude to shoot him that doesn't like that guy's getting power because it goes against what they believe. It's lawless. And it's very hard for one, to get people together, two, keep them together, and force, you know, the whole, you know, if you are making a law system and force that, you know, it's so easy to fall back into chaos. So easy. Like even our society we live in the real world, we don't understand how easy it would be for chaos to just happen. It's not as, you know, tied together as maybe we think it is. And it's the same as Fallout.
I remember what it was. Everybody's saying like societal, like, oh, like the way that they did it in New Vegas or like Fallout 2, like that's the way it should actively do it. That's, you know, this is proof that the forever wasteland theory is true and society can actually advance, which is really fucking funny because those exact same, like the reason the NCR Brotherhood War from, like, you know, from New Vegas specifically happened at all was because the Brotherhood of Steel came in and said exactly that. Like, this technology now belongs to us.
Yeah.
Your society can't advance anymore. And that was written by Obsidian. And yet Bethesda's bad because they blew up Shady Sands.
Well, here's the thing as well, right? Think about it this way. So the bombs go off and then people have to come together to survive in the early stages of the bombs, right? because it's really irradiated. So then these groups form, and there's not any consolidated power yet, right? The groups are still early on, like the Brotherhood, the NCR. They're not as powerful because the devastation only recently happened. So it took time for everything to kind of settle down, for people to find their footing, for civilizations to start, and then things started to fall again, like we see in the games and in the show, right? And then we're kind of we're in the things have found their feet. The factions have, like, all the kind of powerful factions have taken their kind of slice of the wasteland, you know. But you got to think, when it first started, the bombs went off, those factions didn't even exist. So it takes time for the wasteland to find its feet and find its footing. You know, people might have been able to rebuild, but then the factions that have that have built up see them as weak and easy, resources or whatever.
Which, funnily enough, is something that we see exactly play out in Fallout 76.
Yeah. It's just the natural way of progress. Things don't happen overnight, and then
Yeah. And
Rome
like,
wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. And then like on top of that, like Maximus said, like, everybody wants to save the world, they just disagree on how. And then that creates conflict, which leads to war.
That's the whole point of Fallout. And that's exactly what my Fallout series is about. Like I said, it's not about the whole feelings of someone. It's about the factions fighting together. And in my series, the Minutemen, I'm like my faction that I'm controlling and building the settlements with. So again, it goes back to that. That's kind of, I think that's why a lot of people enjoy my story with the series, is because it does follow the same things that people like about Fallout, which is the factions fighting. That's really, when you boil it down, that's the good part of the story. And it's in Fallout 4. People say Fallout 4's story, but sure, the Sean thing is there, but if you look past that, there is the factions fighting. There's the Institute, there's the Brotherhood, the Railroad, and the Minutemen. And people, can I go on a quick tangent about the Minutemen quickly?
Absolutely.
Just quick. Okay. So people talk about the Minutemen as an empty faction with nothing there. Now,
okay,
that's intentional. Because they wanted you to have a clean slate to create your own story with that faction. This is what I believe. That's why they're the settlement system thing. And that's exactly what I'm doing with my series. So the same people that say the Minutemen are boring are the same people that love my series. So it's like, well, you can only have one or the other. You can only have Bethesda gave them a full fleshed out story, you play through it and that's it. Or they give you a fresh slate to create your own story with them. And that's exactly what the Minutemen are there for, in my opinion.
I feel like the Minutemen as like a faction as a whole would have been a lot more interesting if you had a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit more flexibility with that. Like you said, like story-wise, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect and they could have done more, but people are just looking at it the wrong way and looking at it as a conventional faction, whereas I believe it's a sandbox faction for the player to choose. But yes, I do believe they should have finished the Quincy storyline with the Gunners. They could have had other things. They could have kind of made it more obvious that this is what they were going for with it. But I think with time constraints and things and resources, this was as much as they did. But to me, I wouldn't have the Minutemen any other way, because it's enabled me to do the type of storytelling that I do. Without the Minutemen, I would have to create my own faction. It wouldn't resonate with people as much, because they'd be like, oh, who's this group he's talking about? I don't know them. Whereas when I say the Minutemen, and everyone's Minutemen is different. You know who General Dave is? He did settlement videos.
Yep.
So he had his own Minutemen with a whole different storyline. So, but if Bethesda narrowed it down and made them more of a defined faction, mine and his storylines wouldn't exist. It's as simple as that. And people like our storylines. So, like I said, it's the same people that say that they're bad, but it's just looking at it the wrong way.
And I think that's probably when it comes to storytelling, because I mean, I even said it in this podcast, Bethesda isn't really good at storytelling, but that's specifically
they are. I think they are good, and I think they have talent, but it's a video game, and I think they fall in the trap of like, how can we progress a story with the video game in mind and the player, right? And then they simplify it, but I don't think they need to. I think you can have a complicated story and still have it tie into the gameplay. There's so many games that do it.
Well, because that's the thing where they're like good at. They're not really that great at like linear, strict like story point A to story point B.
Yeah.
They're better at the more
world building and little side quests and stuff like that.
And almost sort of like ephemeral storytelling. Like they create the basic outline of the faction, like with the Minutemen, and then they allow enough room for there to be, you know, like headcanons or realistic like alternatives, like they act a little bit differently in this way or they act a little bit differently in that way, to engage the player in that creative that creative process of just the act of play, in the sense of creating stories or creating
they take off the I don't think the training rules is the right way, but the
blinders.
Yeah, the blinders,
like
that's a good way. And yeah, exactly, that's the one. And yeah, well, especially with the Minutemen, with like the Brotherhood and Fallout 4, it's set in stone what their desire is, what they're there for. You can't change that. It's how it is. The Minutemen, you're the general. You could say, we're going to be slavers. And you could build that. You can do that. Now, the resources aren't there in the game. Well, they actually, you could dress up your settlers to look like slaves, put them to work, build your little no, you could do that, but it takes imagination. And but that's really what a lot of the Bethesda games come from, is imagination. Like when you're playing your character, your backstory of them, your role playing is imagination. That's where it comes from. And that's what makes RPGs so fun, is the player's imagination and then that input from their imagination into the game. And that's where the Minutemen, you know, come in, of like, they give you that freedom. Like, you're literally the general, and you have all these settlements you can do, whatever you want. Your imagination is the limit when it comes to the Minutemen, especially with mods. If it wasn't for mods, it's a lot harder, but with all the mods out there, you can do anything. Anything. And it's up to you. And then you can do what I do. You can make videos of it and film cinematics and, you know, create a whole story around it. And I think that's where the Minutemen shine.
All rooted in music and imagination. What a beautiful thought.
Yep. Music and imagination.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Kort, Bethesda-centric YouTuber and creator of the Rebuilding the Commonwealth series. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow to be notified of future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. Until next time, dear listener, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.